Africa, so I don't know how many of my viewers would be up to watch it. But typically with the live streams, which are the most popular things on my channel, people typically wait till they're uploaded to watch them and to like them. Prime example, my live stream that I just did a few hours ago already has 7 likes and 0 dislikes. And we're going to get into the news, and I had some more news to report. I have some more news to report after the live stream, so I'm going to also get this posted on the Telegram groups. If anybody is up, you guys can watch it. So I'm going to go to my iPad right here and then get to post them to the Telegram group, okay? Now, with that being said, a lot of news lately to cover. Recently, Governor Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, the whole state of New York, Governor Cuomo has resigned due to the multiple sexual harassment allegations against him. And while I'm glad that he is resigned and no longer governor of the state of New York, I firmly believe that he should have been in jail a long time ago due to involuntary or voluntary manslaughter at the most. The way he moved COVID-19 hospital patients into nursing homes and did not evacuate the non-COVID-19 patients and then tried to cover it up. And also refused federal aid from the U.S. federal government just because the leader of the U.S. federal government at the time was President Donald Trump. So that is what's going on there. So Governor Cuomo has just resigned. That is just about an hour ago. And now, hopefully bigger and brighter days for New York. We'll just wait and see, but hopefully it will be bigger and brighter days for New York. Okay, get elsewhere into the news. Okay, people have asked me, well, before we get into this, okay, we need to talk about what's going on in Liberia with the COVID-19. Okay, the COVID-19 vaccine misinformation has plagued Liberia like it's plagued the rest of the world, but Liberia has a big lack of educational structure and illiteracy problems due to the massive civil war that plagued Liberia up until 2003, and Liberia is still in the recovery process of that civil war. And then George Weah, the current president of Liberia, has made the nation more unstable. Not to the point of civil war, that's not it at all, but he's not doing a good job governing the country. Well, 66% of Liberians at least say they will not get the COVID-19 vaccine. And a lot of this is due to spreading false information on the vaccine, saying the vaccine has a microchip, which it does not. And there's already a big fear of the government because George Weah maybe has tried to cracking down on political opposition before, as well as other Liberian leaders. So if they believe that the vaccine has a microchip in it, they're not going to get the vaccine. Well, the vaccine does not have a microchip. That I can vouch, that I can confirm. The vaccine does not have a microchip in it. It does not place a microchip in you. Well, 86% of Liberians say that they believe prayer will help protect you the COVID more than the vaccine as well. Now, while I do believe that to a certain degree, I'm a Christian, I do believe if you look at the book of Proverbs talking about wisdom, that God expects you to utilize common sense. And you have a less than 1% chance of dying of the COVID-19 vaccine. And you have about a 1% chance of dying from the COVID-19. So it's better to take your chances, I firmly believe, with the vaccine than you would with the COVID-19. Now, if you have had allergic reactions to vaccines or several other medications in the past, doctors either advise you not to get it or to set up an appointment where they can counsel you and talk to you about the various options. That is absolutely true. So I'm going to get this posted in another Telegram group as well, and hope you guys are doing well. Okay. All right, so we talked about that with what is going on in Liberia with all the misinformation. Now, the thing is, I mean, there are some news networks there that are trying to spread true information in regards to the vaccine, and the Liberia. And as a Mississippian from Mississippi, I view Liberia as my brothers and sisters because a lot of slaves before the U.S. Civil War were relocated from the United States to Liberia, and as I pointed out in other streams, some of them came from Prospect Hill Plantation in Jefferson County, Mississippi, which is about an hour south of where I grew up in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And if you read the book Mississippi in Africa, it details their relocation to Liberia. And 5% of Liberians are descendants of American slaves. They're called Americo-Liberians. So that is what's going on there, okay? All right, here is what's going on with, okay, well, first, Liberia's COVID-19 fight has received a major boost. We'll talk about that, okay? Liberia's fight against COVID-19 has received a major boost after the country on Friday rolled out 302,400 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The West African country received the vaccine donation from the United States government through the COVAX facility, a partnership of CEPI, GAVI, UNICEF, and WHO to expand the COVID-19 vaccination coverage in the country. The country had halted its vaccination campaign after the 96,000 dosage of the AstraZeneca vaccine that it received in March ran out amid an upsurge in infections. But still, most Liberians won't get the vaccine. Different part. Today's launch has proved that Liberia is ready to end COVID-19, said Jim Wright, USAID Mission Director in Liberia. On his part, Ambassador D. Maxwell Kemaya, Senior Liberia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, thanked the U.S. for its support for his country's efforts to contain the pandemic. I can assure you that the Minister of Health and her dynamic team will ensure that the vaccines will be rolled out to the targeted beneficiaries within the country. By Friday, Liberia has recorded 5,409 COVID-19 infections with 148 deaths. Now, to the people in Liberia's defense who have not gotten the vaccine, for the most part, there is wearing a mask and social distancing, and there is trying to prevent the COVID-19 that way. But many Liberians are scared of the vaccine, and false information is becoming a problem over there on people being scared. First of all, the George Weah government is not going to track you by putting a microchip in the vaccine. That is not going to happen. And then, okay, we talked about that. Now, people have asked me, okay, they said, well, what about Israel? What do you think about Israel when the majority of the country has been vaccinated, but they're having a COVID-19 upsurge? All right, you got to look deeper into the data, though, with Israel, and this is what I'm going to show you guys, okay? The COVID-19 in Israel is a huge, huge problem. I don't disagree with that, okay? The COVID-19 in Israel is a huge, huge problem. But here is the thing. While, yes, they have had nearly 1 million cases, and it is a nation of 9 million people, but the majority of the people that they're giving the third shot to try to give 100% immunity to the virus are people over 60. That's number one. But here's the other part to that, okay? Israel is the only country that has mandatory military service for men and women. All men and all women that are Israeli citizens, unless they have a specific medical condition, all Jewish men and women, they have to go into the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, for 2 years of their life, at least. If you want to be an Israeli citizen, it's pretty much mandatory for all men and all women. When you are in the barracks as a general enlisted soldier, you are sharing those barracks with about 35, 40 different people. And even if you have been vaccinated, okay, typically the soldiers are allowed to go on leave to see their parents and their families in Jewish holidays, okay? One person gets the virus from the family members, okay? While the virus will probably be fought off by the vaccine, there are some breakthrough cases. You have 80 people in a room of barracks. 1 or 2 of them get the vaccine. You're sharing the same air. You're in the same room most of the day. It's liable to spread to somebody else. But the amount of COVID deaths in Israel are relatively small. There are only 6,559 COVID-19 deaths in all of Israel. And on top of that, the majority of the cases have been for people who haven't been vaccinated, even though about 60, 70% of the country is. Israeli Arabs who have resident status but are not Israeli citizens, a lot of them are refusing the jab. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And a lot of them lived in crammed tenements in their own neighborhood, so that spreads like that. Number 2, the vaccine is very questionable for people between the ages of 12 and the ages of 17, and a lot of parents with kids that age, even though the vaccine is available free to them, they're skeptical of vaccinating children of that age because there are safety measures on teenagers. It's not been proven safe, 100% safe of kids between the ages of 12 and the age of 17. And so there are a lot of parents skeptical about that, and I don't blame them. So that happens as well. But with nearly 900,000 cases, but only 6,000 deaths. Now, the United States has highly advised people not to go to Israel because it's at level 4, which is the highest level made available, very high. And the Voice of America reported, yes, that the people that are getting the third shot are those over 60, and some of them are still coming down with COVID-19. Now, the new cases in Israel surged past 6,000 for the first time since February. But here's the thing. Here's what the Times of Israel reported. There are 6,000 new cases, but 400 of them are serious. So less than 10% of the cases, even with this new Delta variant, less than 10% of the cases are requiring hospitalization or serious medical treatment, largely because so many Israelis have been vaccinated. Yes, if you've been vaccinated, there is a chance, particularly with this new Delta variant, that you can still get the COVID-19. But it's more than likely there's more like a 95 to 99% chance that it's going to be a light case and it's not going to require hospitalization. So you got to look into that. You got to look at the whole data, the whole picture. So yeah, you got to look at the whole picture. As of Tuesday morning, of all the people that 600,000, 648 people have been hospitalized, which is just a little bit over 10%, not much at all. With 394 in serious condition, and then 64 including 64 on the ventilators. So, of the people that have the serious condition, yes, it's a little less than half, but a little bit less than half of the people with the serious conditions are not in ICU and they're not on the ventilator. So most of them are going to go home. So if you look at all that, there's a low chance if you've been vaccinated that you're not going to die of the COVID-19. 96% of Alabama, in the state of Alabama, 96% of their recent COVID-19 deaths involve unvaccinated people. In Mississippi, 98.4% of our deaths between January and July of the COVID-19 involve people who have not been vaccinated. That is the reality of what is going on. And I'm checking the facts, checking the news, and that is what's going on. That 98.4% of our deaths in Mississippi between January and July have been people who have not been vaccinated. Yes, in Massachusetts, there was a recent case of 74 to 78% of people who have gotten the COVID were people who had been vaccinated. But here's the thing. They were at bars, they were at clubs, they were hugging up on each other, some of them were making out. But only of all those people who had gotten it, which was, I think, like 5,000 or something, but there was only 4 hospitalizations, 4, and 0 deaths. 4 hospitalizations and 0 deaths involving a breakout of COVID for people who have gotten vaccinated. Only 4 of them had to be hospitalized out of hundreds, maybe thousands, and 0 died. That is the reality about the vaccine here. And the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which has recently been shipped to South Africa, as I pointed out previously before, it's been shipped to Liberia as well because the United States and Liberia have a historical connection. Well, South Africa has gotten Johnson & Johnson vaccines. And the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a 71% protectant against the COVID-19, against the Delta strain of the COVID-19. So, that is that. Okay, more news out of South Africa that I wanted to talk about and that I wanted to cover. I really think that that as much as I believe in exercising caution for the COVID-19 and everything else, I don't think South Africa should be on the lockdown. And then the ANC has really not managed the lockdown well. You can't go fishing, you can't go hunting, but the malls are wide. I mean, it's not hunting. You can't go fishing, you can't go kayaking, but the malls are wide open. And then in ANC friendly areas, there are not a lot of enforcement of social distancing. But then you can buy alcohol at the store or go into a bar, but then you can't. You can buy alcohol at a bar, but you can't buy it in a store for private consumption. That's just asinine. But Al Jazeera had reported that the South Africa postponed Zuma corruption trial to September. Zuma is facing 18 charges due to corruption and money laundering and he's pled not guilty to all charges. The South African court has again postponed a long-delayed corruption trial against jailed former President Jacob Zuma to September the 9th following his hospitalization last week for an undisclosed medical condition. So we still don't know if it's from COVID-19 or not. Zuma, who's jailing last month for 15 months on a separate contempt of court matter, led to a wave of looting and unrest. Now, there were a lot of opportunist looters. It started out as something like that, but it quickly turned into just people wanting an opportunity to get stuff for free. That's another story in and of itself. And was expected to appear in court Tuesday in a $2 billion arms deal corruption case that led to his sagging as South Africa's deputy president in 2005. He was moved to the hospital on Friday for medical observation. Prison officials did not provide details of his condition. So I don't think the trial needs to be moved. He's already failed to appear in court once, and the ANC is just dragging their feet on this because they know that there's a major rift between the pro-Zuma faction of the ANC and the pro-Ramaphosa faction of the ANC, which is what's going on. Now, Bloomberg.com had reported that that South Africa has nominated an ex-defense minister as the new parliament speaker. And I don't think she's the most competent person to be the parliament speaker. She was defense minister under Jacob Zuma, and it's a lady named Nosiviwe Mapisa Gakula. And she is going to be the parliamentary speaker and is going to fill Modise's post. Her election by the National Assembly is virtually assured because the ANC commands an outright majority in the legislature. Now, this lady has been known to fly a plane to go get a Burundian woman who was residing in the Democratic Republic of Congo and helping her bring her into South Africa illegally. And the Democratic Republic of Congo is a place where the Ebola virus can break out, and the last thing South Africa needs is another virus to break out there. So I thought that was tacky on her part to do what she did if they want to help the people in the Democratic Republic there and set up refugee camps in the Democratic Republic of Congo itself. That's what I firmly believe. Okay, all right. Talked about that, and okay. All right, let's talk about what's going on in South Korea right now. In South Korea, there are over 200, this is the first time today they had over 2,000 new cases in one day. Now, 45 to 50% of South Koreans have at least had one jab of the vaccine, but only 15% of them have been fully vaccinated. But here is the problem why the COVID is becoming such a problem in South Korea. One, still less than 50% of them have had at least one jab, and only 15% of them have been fully vaccinated. Well, right now it's a time for summer vacation in South Korea, and people are they're not traveling overseas, but they're traveling locally throughout the country of South Korea. Well, when you travel locally like that, the problem is when you still go to a hotel, and if they have central air where it's coming out of one place, you're breathing the same air, and you can't go to sleep with a mask on. It's very, very difficult to sleep with a medical mask on. So that is a problem there. And even if you go into a restaurant, and you social distance, you still have to take your mask off when you eat, and then you're breathing the same air. So there's gonna be an increase in COVID-19 cases that way if you're doing that, no matter how much the tables are spaced out, no matter how far apart you are from somebody. If you're at the table by yourself, even if you're breathing the same air and you don't have a mask on, even if it's for 10 to 15 minutes, there's a chance you're going to get the COVID-19. Now, in spite of the COVID-19 surging in South Korea, for a nation as crowded as it is, it has the landmass of my home state, Mississippi, but it has almost 14 times as many people, about 52 million, if I remember correctly. So South Korea, for its size and its congestion, they still have managed the COVID-19 very, very well. And And I'm going to show you the amount of cases and the deaths in South Korea. And they have been slow distributing the vaccine to people because, like I said, only 15% of the population has gotten both jabs. But despite that, because many South Koreans do wear masks and they do social distance, there is only 2,134 deaths and then 213,987 cases. So that is why South Korea is on level 2 and not level 4 to travel, but it's on moderate levels because the general population of South Korea still takes it upon themselves to wear a mask, to social distance, they still carry on with their daily lives, but then they wash their hands frequently. They always use a hand sanitizer. And if the vaccine gets distributed better, then there's going to be a lot of people who are, more and more people who are going to get vaccinated. 45% of the population's already been vaccinated. So compared to a lot of other countries, including the United States, South Korea has a very, very low percentage of their population who have caught the COVID or who have died from the COVID-19. That is the reality with this. All right, talk about Zambia. Right now, Zambia, the elections in Zambia, Edgar Lungu recently had cut the ribbon on a terminal that was built by a construction company from China and paid for by China, a terminal in their airport, the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport in Zambia, and he thinks that that's going to lead him to get more votes, but typically it was built by most Chinese workers, didn't give African workers too many jobs. And then number 2, Kenneth Kaunda has done a bad job managing the economy even during this COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm not Kenneth Kaunda, excuse me, Edgar Lungu. Edgar Lungu has done a bad job managing the economy, but he's running against an opposition leader who has ran for president since 2006. Now, every time he gets defeated, he alleges voter fraud. Now, there has never been substantial proof in that, but there are a lot of Zambians believe that voter fraud is in play. Now, there had been violence between the opposition supporters and Edgar Lungu supporters, and some of them were hacked to death. And Edgar Lungu may use this crisis as a reason to postpone elections, which he shouldn't, by the way. And the voting day is near, and the election is about to come up soon. Now, the United Party for National Development is the opposition party, and their color is purple. Well, not purple. Red is their main color, but many of their people were wearing purple shirts. Now, Edgar Lungu's party is the Patriotic Front Party, and they wear green, which is their party's colors. But the man who's running against Edgar Lungu says he's a cattleman and he tends to his own cattle, he feeds his own cattle, but he's also a multi-millionaire, very successful businessman, but his parents pushed him hard. He's a Christian. He got his business degree, and he's managed and owned several businesses. And a lot of people have not voted for him because they think he's not able to connect with the regular people. He says he is because he grew up very, very poor and he worked his way up and he knows how to develop Zambia economically. I'm willing to give the guy a chance, but it's going to be a question too if most Zambians are willing to give the guy a chance. Now, Edgar Lungu's approval rating is pretty low, and we will see. If he doesn't win this time, if Edgar Lungu's opponent doesn't win this time, I'm on alleged voter fraud. Just my personal opinion. Not going to be proof of that, but that's my personal opinion. But anyway, I'm going to end it right here. Hope everybody's doing well. Take care. God bless, and bye-bye. Bye-bye.